Throughout history, real men and women were tortured, executed, and condemned as werewolves. These weren't mythical creatures but actual people who lived, breathed, and died horrible deaths because of beliefs that shaped centuries of European culture. Behind every werewolf legend lies documented historical reality that's far more disturbing than any Hollywood monster. The word werewolf comes from Old English werwolf, meaning man-wolf, but the concept reaches back over 4,000 years to one of humanity's earliest written stories. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, from around 2100 BC, the goddess Ishtar transforms a shepherd into a wolf after growing tired of his affections. This wasn't just ancient fiction, it was the beginning of a belief system that would eventually cost tens of thousands of lives. Ancient Greece gave us the foundational werewolf story that still echoes today. King Lycaon, whose name literally comes from Lykos, the Greek word for wolf, served the god Zeus a meal made from a sacrificed boy's remains. Zeus's punishment was swift and permanent. He transformed Lycaon and his sons into wolves. This myth wasn't just entertainment. Archaeological evidence from Mount Lykaion suggests a real cult developed around Lycaon, complete with human sacrifice. 4 years ago, researchers discovered the 3,000-year-old remains of a teenager at this very site, which lends disturbing credibility to ancient accounts of the group mixing human and animal meat in their rituals. Werewolf beliefs weren't confined to Greece, though. The historian Herodotus wrote between 484 and 425 BCE about the Scythian tribe, called the Neuri, ancestors of some Scandinavian peoples, who allegedly transformed into wolves for specific periods each year. This wasn't seen as a curse but as a warrior tradition. Norse sagas tell of the Ulfhednir, wolf warriors who wore wolf pelts and channeled wolf spirits in battle, much like their more famous berserker cousins who wore bear skins. The saga of the Volsungs describes a father and son who discovered magical wolf pelts that transformed them into wolves for 10 days, sending them on a killing rampage through the forest. These weren't monsters in the Norse view. They were elite warriors tapping into primal power. What's fascinating is how these ancient traditions evolved into medieval European reality. Between 1520 and 1630, in France alone, at least 30,000 people were executed as werewolves. That's 30,000 human beings burned, tortured, and killed because their communities believed they could transform into wolves. This wasn't a few isolated incidents but a systematic campaign of persecutions that swept across Europe. The werewolf trials followed a brutal pattern. Take Pierre Burgot and Michel Verdun, 2 French shepherds executed in 1521. After allegedly swearing allegiance to the devil, they confessed, under torture, to brutally murdering several children while in wolf form. They were burned alive at the stake. Their confessions, extracted through unimaginable pain, became templates for future werewolf prosecutions. Gilles Garnier, known as the Werewolf of Dole, was burned at the stake in 1573 after confessing to using a magical ointment that transformed him into a wolf. His trial records, still preserved today, detail how he allegedly attacked and ate several children. The court found him guilty not just of murder, but of lycanthropy itself. Being a werewolf was a crime, punishable by death. But perhaps no case captures the horror of werewolf persecution better than Peter Stumpp, the werewolf of Bedburg. In 1589, this German farmer faced accusations that read like the darkest nightmare. Under torture, Stumpp confessed to practicing black magic for over 20 years, transforming into a wolf using a belt given to him by the devil. He allegedly murdered and cannibalized 14 children, including his own son, and maintained incestuous relationships with his daughter and sister. The execution of Stumpp on October 31, 1589, was designed to terrify. He was strapped to a wheel where his flesh was torn with red-hot pincers. His arms and legs were broken with wooden mallets. He was beheaded, and his body was burned alongside his daughter and mistress. His head was mounted on a pole with a wolf's body and a blonde wig, creating a grotesque warning to others. Modern historians note something crucial about Stumpp's case. He was missing his left hand, cut off at the wrist, leaving only a stump. This physical deformity may have given him his name and made him a target for supernatural accusations. When the alleged werewolf's left forepaw was supposedly cut off, Stumpp's missing hand became proof of his guilt. Some scholars argue Stumpp's prosecution had political motivations. By 1589, Catholics had secured control of the Bedburg region, and a brutal werewolf trial would discourage Protestant rebellion. However, historian Brian Levock disputes this view, arguing that Stumpp was prosecuted as a moral reprobate regardless of religious allegiance. What's disturbing is how torture produced such detailed confessions. Many alleged werewolves confessed to crimes only after enduring unimaginable pain, which raises serious questions about the reliability of their admissions. Some victims likely suffered from mental illness or weren't intelligent enough to understand what they were confessing to. Not all werewolf cases ended in execution, though. Jean Grenier, a teenage French boy tried in 1603, confessed to lycanthropy but was declared insane and confined to a monastery rather than executed. This represented a shift in thinking. Some authorities began viewing werewolf beliefs as mental illness rather than supernatural reality. The most remarkable werewolf case might be Thiess of Kaltenbrun, tried in Livonia in 1692. This elderly man openly proclaimed himself a werewolf, but with a shocking twist. He claimed werewolves were servants of God, not the devil. Thiess testified that he and other werewolves traveled to hell to fight demons and protect harvests from evil spirits. He called werewolves the hounds of God, who pursued the devil with iron whips. Thiess's defense was so unique that it baffled authorities. He insisted werewolves were Christianity's allies, fighting supernatural battles for humanity's benefit. The court found him guilty of harboring diabolical delusions, but his case represents fascinating evidence that werewolf beliefs weren't uniformly negative across European cultures. The most famous alleged werewolf case wasn't tried in court, but terrorized the French countryside for 3 years. The Beast of Gévaudan killed approximately 100 people between 1764 and 1767 across an area spanning 90 by 80 kilometers in southern France. Some accounts claim nearly 300 victims fell to this creature, described as like a wolf, yet not a wolf. The first official victim was 14-year-old Jean Boulet, killed on June 30, 1764, near the village of Les Houbat. Eyewitness descriptions described a creature larger than any normal wolf, with reddish fur, enormous teeth, and an unusual ability to attack humans rather than livestock. The beast seemed to prefer women and children, often decapitating victims or tearing out their throats. King Louis XV dispatched his royal huntsmen to destroy the creature. In September 1765, François-Antoine shot an enormous wolf dubbed the Wolf of Gévaudan, which was stuffed and displayed at Versailles. The attacks continued, though. It wasn't until June 19, 1767, when local hunter Jean Chastel killed another large animal, that the killings finally stopped. Modern historians like J.M. Smith argue the Beast of Gévaudan was simply one or more wolves whose attacks were transformed into monster mythology due to cultural and social factors in the 1760s in France. However, recorded descriptions make some biologists question whether wolves could actually grow that large or display such unusual behavior patterns. The beast case gave birth to one of werewolf mythology's most enduring elements, the silver bullet. Popular culture claims Jean Chastel used silver bullets blessed by the Virgin Mary to kill the creature. This detail comes from Henri Pourrat's 1946 novel, though not historical records. The silver bullet weakness wasn't part of original werewolf folklore, but was popularized by the 1941 film The Wolf Man. Real werewolf beliefs were far more complex than modern monster movies suggest. European folklore claimed werewolves could be identified by physical traits like unibrows, curved fingernails, or hair growing under the tongue. In some regions of Spain, Portugal, and South America, the seventh-born son was destined to become a werewolf. Turkic peoples held werewolves in reverence, viewing shamanic transformation into wolf form as a sacred ability connecting humans to their totemic ancestor animal. Medieval werewolves were often portrayed sympathetically as cursed individuals desperate to return to human form rather than evil monsters. Ancient treatments for lycanthropy included exhaustion therapy, subjecting supposed werewolves to extreme physical activity, hoping to purge the condition. Modern medicine has provided new perspectives on historical werewolf cases. Clinical lycanthropy is a rare psychiatric condition where patients believe they can transform into animals. Since 1850, only 56 original case descriptions exist, with just 13 meeting strict criteria for clinical lycanthropy. Neuroimaging studies show unusual brain activation in areas responsible for body shape perception when patients report feeling their bodies change. Some historical werewolf cases may have involved hypertrichosis, sometimes called werewolf syndrome, where excessive hair growth covers the face and body. This extremely rare condition has fewer than 100 documented cases worldwide, with only about 50 cases of the congenital form ever recorded. Recent genetic research in China helped identify extra chromosomal material responsible for some cases. Other potential explanations include ergot poisoning from contaminated rye, which causes hallucinations, or criminals using werewolf mythology to cover their crimes. Some cases likely involved genuine mental illness, while others resulted from false confessions extracted under torture. The decline of werewolf beliefs parallels the disappearance of wolves from European landscapes. As wolf populations diminished in recent centuries, so did stories about werewolves and the belief they should be taken seriously. The very real threat of wolf attacks that once terrorized rural communities faded into memory, taking werewolf fears with it. What emerges from this historical record isn't a story about supernatural monsters, but about very human fears, prejudices, and violence. The werewolf trials represent a crucial but often overlooked aspect of early modern European history, claiming hundreds of lives and reflecting deep anxieties about identity, violence, and the boundaries of humanity. These weren't just superstitious folktales, but systematic persecutions that destroyed families and communities. Every werewolf legend has roots in documented human suffering, real people who faced unimaginable accusations, torture, and death because their societies needed someone to blame for inexplicable violence and tragedy. The werewolf's true horror lies not in fictional transformations, but in humanity's capacity to convince itself that neighbors, friends, and family members were literal monsters deserving of the most brutal punishments imaginable. The real werewolves were never the accused. They were the accusers who transformed ordinary people into scapegoats for society's fears. Understanding this history doesn't diminish the power of werewolf mythology, but adds layers of meaning that pure fiction cannot match. When we watch werewolf movies or read supernatural stories today, we're engaging with cultural memories of very real historical trauma. The howling we hear in those stories isn't just the cry of fictional beasts, it's the echo of human voices silenced by fear, superstition, and violence centuries ago.